Morning,
Now
Doctor.
I realized that I don't have a watch. Uh, yeah. Right. So today's lecture is going to be on male breeding soundness examination. In short, breeding soundness examination, we use the acronym BSE and semen collection. Seems like deja vu because I presented this like 10 minutes ago, webinar, same picture, which depict semen collection using artificial vagina, using a Frisian bull. So that's me collecting the semen, and the person next to me ready to pull me in case the bull collapse. And because when we're doing this, my attention is on the penis of the bull, right, with the AV. So my aim was just to put the AV inside the penis, and I do not pay attention to the rest of the world. So that dude ensure my surrounding is safe, and if the bull is collapsing towards my way, he will pull me off immediately to safety. Person behind him is a bit at the back, holding the rope that is attached to the bull ring. Person in front is there to observe. I think I can't remember his function. Yeah, so he's there. So this is a typical if you use AV, a typical setting or personnel that I would encourage you to have in terms of safety. Kadang-kadang kita buat seorang je, boleh je buat seorang. But it's risky, and if anything happens, contohnya you kena lenyek dengan lembu tu, atau lembu tu terpenyek you pun jadi pancake ataupun lempeng, lambat pula orang nak tengok you. It's dangerous, get my point. But yeah, I've seen people do it by themselves. Boleh lah, but don't. Why risk your life? Lembu ni satu tan tu, jatuh kat you. Dia pula lepas ejaculate kan, terjatuh kat you, dia pun macam syok-syok kan. Macam, yeah, it's dangerous. So this is the lab, the Therio and Cyto lab, because I realized over the years some students don't know where our labs, don't know where the lab is. So that address is there. If you've ever feel lost during your rotation in Division 4 and Division 5, Division 4 not anymore. No Division 4 would be. So this is the place that you go to prepare stuff, to prepare barang with the stuff. So we have Cik Fahmi and Cik Faizal, which later on you will be acquainted to. So in this unit, kita ada Dr. Mark, kita ada Dr. Hussein and me lah, the academician. So BSE, apa kata? Complete systematic reproductive examination, the male reproductive potential. So actually it's an examination to measure the reproductive potential of the bull, and the way the soundness of the bull. So when you say soundness, it's not necessarily one parameter. What it meant is there's various parameters in place. So that includes the bull being able to mount, that includes the bull have good ejaculate quality, and that includes the bull having libido. So depending on the type of semen collection method that you choose, you will have different things to consider. Fundamentals that I list, there are 6, as I say. Number 1 that is most important is that you need to know the bull, and you need to be able to identify the bull, because if you don't, then the next time you do, you don't remember which bull. And I list this as number 1 because this happens quite often, to your surprise. Hari ni kita collect kepala hitam ataupun tumpuk badan putih. Besok lembu pun semua tumpuk badan putih dan hitam. It's like my father describing his peel. Apel tu bulat warna putih. Doesn't make sense. So either you have an ear tag, either you have a microchip, whatever it is. Kalau in swine the bull are ear notch, right? Make sure you know. Especially if you have thousands of animals, make sure it's systematic. So you need to know the sibling capacity or libido. So these are not, depending on the type of semen collection method that you choose. If you use electroejaculation, you can't assess the libido, which is a method that we routinely use. So no, there are some caveat in different technique. General reproductive examination. So although you are looking at the breeding soundness, you also need to know whether the animal is healthy or not. So that's why we do a full physical examination. You don't want to do semen collection in animal that have orchitis, for example. You don't want to do semen evaluation in animal that is feverish. Sorry. Can I take this call? Hold on. Hello, Dina. Hey, Point Dina. Is it? Okay, boleh. Boleh. Terima kasih, Point Dina. Okay. Right. So sorry. Bila PKP ni selalu masak, bila dah masak, tersumbat pula apa? Pipe. Sebab selalu saya nak masak. So these past 2 days, I've been unblocking my clog pipe, and it feels a lot like you're doing rectal palpation because you don't know what's in, right? And you're using this dredger and you're using this stuff. So at least now I know my rectal palpation skills is very useful in tight places. But still could not resolve, so we want to call some professionals to go and deal with it. So can I hold on? Sorry. Hello, Nico. Okay. Pipe sumbat dekat sinki dapur. Yes. Langsung tak keluar. Ya. So kita dah, I dah dredge dia dan I dah pakai chemical lah. Yang apa kan. So memang tak mau I dah cucuk-cucuk pun pakai apa yang tu dawai tu kan. Ada cucuk depan dan ada cucuk belakang pun dia masih block. Okay, boleh. Okay. Alright. Okay. Selamat. Sorry, it's an emergency, really. You don't have a pipe, your life is going to be miserable and it's difficult. And we've been having this difficulty for a few days. I'm so sorry, and thank you for your understanding. Should probably put it in mute now so that whoever calls after this. Yeah, I already silenced. Yep, throw that away. General and reproductive performance. So yeah, as I was saying, you don't want the animal to be sick when you do BSE, because you want to determine whether the animal is sound or not. And if the animal is healthy, it's not sound for BSE. So that's one of the reason when we do full PE. Take temperature, look at the eye, the animal coordination, gait, lameness, and those stuff. Then, after all of the above, you do semen quality, and these have minimum standards according to different species as well. This one is for bull, for boss. I think it's for boss indicus. Boss. Sorry, I think it's for boss taurus. So boss indicus would have slightly different variable. And finally, after all this 5 consideration, you only have number 6 for you to make a decision, which is whether the animal is satisfactory, unsatisfactory, or is it deferred so that you plan to do it next time. So usually during rotation, you go through the whole breadth and width of BSE. and I ask you, so what? Usually what I mean is so what for number 6. And that is what I really want to know. So yeah, so you have different parameters, you have different readings, so what? So always go back to number 6 when I ask so what, whether the animal is satisfactory, unsatisfactory, or classification different. That's what it really is, boils down to. So it's either lulus, tidak lulus, ataupun kena resit exam. Scrotal circumference measurement. I can't see my own slides because the camera is the way. Kedah Kelantan and General Bos Taurus, right? So, and it's age dependent as well. So these references are made specifically for that. You need to know if you're looking at literature, scientific papers, they are quite specific. So in your Bos Taurus cross, more or less 33 centimeter, we had 34 and 37 in Prada. We argued a little bit more on how to do scrotal measurement. So make sure you know how to use the tape. Make sure you know to use the scrotal meter so that you don't get false result. Otherwise, inaccurate result. It can get very confusing. And make sure that I hope it's there somewhere. How to do measurement. So this paper in 2008, Alexander said that if scrotal circumference fail, there is no need to repeat the examination. The animal should fail unless it's young, emaciated, or classification different. So scrotal circumference has a very good correlation with the semen quality. So you can be very strict with it. It's fine. So you don't even need to proceed to semen collection if you know it kind of fail in the scrotal circumference area. That's the point. Oh yeah, so I do teach here. So proper way for you to do scrotal circumference is number 1, you need to pull the testis downward, ensure sufficient pressure, because if you don't, testis will be floating. So you want to make sure that everything is in the scrotal sac, pull it downward, and then you don't want to kind of spread the testis apart. You want to maintain it that way, depicted in the picture number 2 here. So you more or less get it in your palm, and you measure it at the widest point. So you have this like the scrotum neck, and you don't want to measure it at the neck. You want to measure at the body where it's the thickest, and you need to measure evenly with the skin, because some animals have scrotal sac that is very developed, very thick. So you want to make sure that you get everything together. So there are at least 6 semen collection methods. We do rectal massage more frequently now, but it's quite dependent on the animal having used to the procedure. So if the animal is new, they may not be receptive to rectal massage. Electroejaculation, you can get semen quite immediately, whether the animal is trained or not. Vaginal collection is that after the animal copulate, it ejaculate, then you can collect from the vagina. You can use artificial vagina that I showed earlier. You can also use urethral catheterization. These methods are developed first in lion. We've started to apply it in cats. So what it meant is that you use the HCT tubes, hematocrit centrifugation tube is that small tube, right? So you kind of use like capillary pressure when you put at the tip of the penis, the sperm will get withdrawn. And then you can use direct stimulation of the penis or digital massage. We use this in crocodile. There's another one that I forgot to put is TUMAS or transrectal ultrasound massage. So basically rectal, a form of modified rectal massage using ultrasound after you identify it. So more or less 6 to 7 methods. Depending on the species, depending on the tools that you have, you may want to consider, and then they have different effect as well to the outcome of the semen quality. So always need to consider that again. So for example, if you use electroejaculation, because you're directly stimulating the accessory sex gland or ASG, and ASG actually resides above directly immediately to the bladder. So when you apply electrical stimulation, it kind of stimulate the bladder as well, and the animal urinate. As a result, there may be contamination with urine that you need to be careful with. As a result, also, because it stimulates it forcefully, it does not reflect real quality of natural ejaculation. And then the volume are more likely to be copious because of the, I think, some fluid from the ASG as well as some form of urine. So always you get more volume with that, but not necessarily means it's good. However, if you compare with AV and rectal massage, AV are more readily available in terms of the semen quality, and volume is also considered good. So if you have the time to train the bull for 4 months, that's typically the time that you need to teach the bull to learn to mount and for you to collect using AV. If you have the time, if you have the staff, the effort, the facilities, you can opt for AV lah. But usually we don't have that luxury. We usually go for EE or rectal massage. Yep. So this is my model, Dr. Kwek Ameng. Don't know if I asked for his permission to use this picture. Anyway, I took this picture. So I suppose that's my permission. So there are many anatomy of the artificial vagina. The one we have is just the tubular structure. We don't have the sleeve. We don't have the we don't have the sleeve saja yang lain tak ada. So it comes with smooth latex liner, body of the AV, and some part that you do put water in to kind of adjust the pressure. So it's like basically a tube for penis to go in. So that's why you need to put some warm water, so it emulates the environment of the vagina of the cow. So the animal is stimulated enough, it ejaculates. So they need to have certain like tightness to it. So if you imagine if it's too loose, then the animal don't have friction when it's copulating. So that's the idea behind artificial vagina. Nama pun artificial vagina, and so you want to mimic that. So that is where you can adjust with what you put water to provide warmth, but you can adjust with air to kind of like modify the pressure, whether you want it more tight or you want it to be looser. You don't want it to be too tight because it may cause fracture of the penis, God forbid. And you don't want it to be loose either. It will not be pleasurable, I suppose, to the bull. In Prof. Wahid's word, it will not be fun to the bull. So ini yang you letak air di dalam and you measure it using thermometer. Air panas lah, air swab. Jangan panas sangat. I think around 38, 39 is fair. You don't want it to be boiling hot, right? Because nobody wants that. AV equipment preparation, I found a video in YouTube. Yeah, so if you want to look into detail, that'd be better. But of course, if you have opportunity, we usually look during rotation so that you can fiddle around with the model, with the actual apparatus. It's way better. So these are the step. I would suppose first step is that you bring the bull to the cow. So initially you need to have the cow on heat, right? So that the bull knows, like when you're teaching it, the bull knows with all the pheromones and all the reaction from the female, like this is something that I should mount. But after a while, if the animal is trained, you can just put like a dummy there, and then the bull will still mount anyway because it knows this is what it's going to do. It's going to ejaculate. It's fine. This is a routine protocol. But initially, what you want is you want to put a cow on heat. Then after that, maybe you can slowly move to cow that is not on heat, because you need, if you want a cow on heat, it's very specific criteria, right? So you need to have like in that 21-day cycle, you need to have that particular cow. Lepas tu besok dia tak on heat, so you tak boleh collect semen. So ideally, you want to train that so that the animal does not have to rely on the cow being on heat, but just willing to mount whatever cow. Next, because my instructor Achan ni kata dia tak seberapa suka letak lembu betina or cow in front. Because he said it's animal welfare issue. Then he said, apa benda ya animal welfare issue? Because actually we're doing AV kan, we're doing semen collection tu bull to mount kan. So accidentally the bull may enter the cow. So she said she don't like the idea of the bull raping the cow, so to say. So I pun macam, oh, okay, I never thought of that. So yeah, I suppose you can. Yelah, maksudnya you should be thinking about that as well, and you don't want to, like, you want to collect semen, you do need to subject the cow to that kind of sexual harassment, if you would say. But I never really thought of that, but she said so. Saya pun macam mungkin lah, fair. Mungkin betul lah kan. So jaga-jaga kalau you pakai lembu betina, nanti mungkin dia accident. Tapi lepas tu pun you boleh pakai lembu jantan. So masa dia dah pandai sikit, you boleh pakai lembu jantan. Jaga-jaga juga lembu jantan tersebut sebab mungkin accident. Dan last kali, I think if you can use a dummy, that would be great. So dummy pun you boleh ajar pakai mula-mula maybe some using scent, using urine from a cow that is already on heat, so that it has all the pheromones, right? So you put it on a dummy and go like, okay, this smells like a cow that's on heat. After that, no need, nothing, tak payah apa kain buruk, tak payah, diorang suka pakai gunny sack kan. Gunny sack yang ada urine tak payah dah. You letak je panjat lah, dia pandai lah. So I think that's the idea, that you need like maybe that one like 6 or 7 months up to a year to train the bull so that it becomes that efficient, right? But initially you need to kind of train that. And this is the kind of luxury that you don't have sometimes. And you just like want immediate semen collection so that you can maybe evaluate for the quality whether the bull is right or not. So yeah, that is why we have other options to consider. But if you're running like an AI straw collecting center yang you nak jual kan, use AV straight away because quality is definitely better. It's better for the animal welfare. And then you get more semen volume. Overall, it's better. Kalau selalunya pun, overseas dia orang pakai AV lah. Kalau you nak buat cryopreservation kan, sebab cryopreservation nanti sperm tu akan mati because of the cryopreservation. So if you start with low quality sperm that you cryopreserve, then you don't have a good number of sperm to work with after thawing. So this is the electro-ejaculated tool. The probe is very big for bull. So it's like this torpedo shape that you put inside the rectum that has electrode below here. So electrode is where the electrical stimulation is delivered. So it has different shapes and size. A very small one that we use in tortoise. We use it for rabbit as well. That's very small, depending on the size of the rectum, right? This is as big as we have. No. There are bigger ones for elephant actually. So it's like that, this big, and it's short. Though. I don't know why. Yeah, so this is typically size for bull. I think that one is for elephant, but not that I remember we use it in elephant because it's crazy if you do EE in elephant. So the stimulation that you would expect from EE is that it's an electrical stimulation, so the animal will be kind of like shocked to a certain extent, shocked electrically, and also shocked terkejut, pun intended. So if you do EE in elephant, you can imagine like this giant kena EE dia terkejut. With that amount of force, it's very dangerous. So usually with elephant, we use masturbation or rectal massage. That we usually practice during the semen collection, rotation, Therio Dr. So you have this like machine that's attached to the probe that goes inside the rectum, and you also need a collecting tube. So that's what this is. That has this rubber line that goes inside this, and at the end here it has like you put like a test tube, a collection tube. That's the idea, right? So you collect, so you need to stimulate and then you need to collect. Makes sense. And make sure you put enough lubricants as well. I don't want to elaborate on this. But over the years, you see funny things. What students can actually achieve will just, yeah. But I hope you have that common sense. If you want to lubricate something that you want to insert, where would you put the lubrication? For God's sake, put the lubrication in front of the tip of where you're gonna put. Ada yang letak macam ubat gigi tau. Apa tengok je. You nak berus gigi ke? Macam apa benda ni? Like use a common sense. That is where it's gonna go in, and most likely gonna hurt. So lubricate the tip. Come on, do better. If you put it like Colgate yang on top of the toothbrush, that's for brushing tooth lah. What else to say? Yeah, just beware lah. That is where you want to lubricate the most. And you'll be surprised. Some of your friends, if I don't mention this, I'm gonna see. So hopefully it's clear not to put it like a toothpaste. I don't know why. This is my friend Dr. Sita. I don't know why she does this, but I think like maybe like kadang-kadang you nak letak ubat gigi macam, it's like you're trying to focus, right? Like, yeah. So I suppose that's the facial expression to really put it, because tak nak tumpah dan sebagainya. So I'm trying to simplify the procedure. So I'm trying to simplify the procedure that we do for semen collection during rotation, so you have a good idea when you do enter rotation unit for Therio. So morning we do semen collection during BSE day, and then afternoon we do semen evaluation. Just these two activities. Pagi collect, petang evaluate. So what we do is that, what you need to understand is that there are a lot of preparation that you need to consider in mind. Bukannya datang, letak ubat gigi, gosok gigi je. You kena cari ubat gigi tu dulu, you kena cari berus gigi tu dulu, you kena cari sinki, kena ada air, nak, kan? So lah, sama lah dengan you nak buat semen collection. You need to prepare beforehand, water bath, temperature, thermometer. Sebab we have like a built-in thermometer inside the water bath, but it's always there to trick you. Dia tulis 37 tapi sebenarnya dia 45. So I don't know. It's exactly what it's intended to, like you don't trust one thing. You need to always have another thing in backup, and you do need like real thermometer that you dip in and check, okay, this is the thermometer. But otherwise, kalau temperature water bath you too hot, you have ruined the whole day of semen collection. Sebab nanti you akan dapat semen rebus. Test tube and test tube rack. Usually I even pre-label so that I'm ready. Selection and setting up the microscope. Make sure the microscope works, because not all microscope in the laboratory work. Sometimes the light is discoid. Dia macam disco sikit kan. So you don't want to bring your best microscope if you can. Check that all the objective lens is working. Check that there's no scratch or anything that you will limit your evaluation procedure. And then I also want to remind you to take good care of the microscope since we're at it. Don't drag the microscope on the table because it has rubber tip below. If you do, it shakes, it vibrates, things are going to get loose and it's going to be broken. And then don't use oil. You don't need oil for semen evaluation in wool. You just need that time 40. You don't need to use the time 100, because we notice students don't know how to use time 100s to time 40. Because once you go to times 100, you can't go back to times 40. You will scratch the time 40. So don't use time 100 lah, tak payah pakai oil. Pakai oil pun nanti tak pandai nak cuci oil, nanti minyak dan lens tu rosak. Dan bila you pakai oil pun dekat you punya eosin stain sperm, it's going to spoil the stain because we don't fix it with a fixative agent. Even if you use glass light, you don't need lah. You don't need. Yeah. So why bother to make your life difficult? But if you still want to, make sure you have that Kim wipe, so that microscope wipes yang betul-betul destined for microscope use, which we don't have at some lab. So tak payahlah pakai oil, please lah. I rasa tak payah. Tak payah buat hidup you jadi complicated. Untuk kita orang pun nanti akan ada cross contamination lah. Tak pandai pakai 40 tu dengan tu 40 pula berminyak, dah rosak, yeah, those kind of stuff lah. So that I hope you remember to take good care. Microscope pun satu lagi, bila dah tak pakai, tutup bulb dia. sebab kalau tidak bab ni biar lama-lama dia panas dia meletup. So those kind of things. Be mindful of things because you want that thing to last. We want your junior to be able to use it, right? So be considerate to others. You want your colleague, your friends to be able to use it, please. And then you prepare semen extender beforehand. So semen extender, I realized that you don't know what semen extender is. It's basically solution that consists a lot of nutrients that you add, which will help in extending, so the name implies, extending the life of this semen. And if it's a solution, it's going to dilute the sperm. So that's why you also need to know insemination dose, what's the appropriate insemination dose that you dilute after semen collection and those stuff. There's a lot of things. Actually, it needs its own lecture, but I noticed we tak ada lecture on semen preservation and semen extension. But I'm just touching it. I hope you do get my point. And preparation of diluent as well, whatever normal saline, formal saline that you need for the semen analysis. Lepas tu baru collection time, preparation of the bull, you buat PE kan. This is the actual thing lah that you have contact with the animal. And then post collection pun you kena cepat, you kena evaluate cepat-cepat. Kalau you lambat, semen akan mati ataupun the result is going to be different. And I noticed that when you do with 6 students, so 6 individuals doing it differently, some a bit faster, some a bit slower, then you have this like variation or range yang sangat besar. Ada yang tengok motility kosong, ada yang tengok motility 100 contohnya. Memang macam, but it's the same samples. Why? And we realize it's the delay that students take. Sometimes kan macam korang terlampau short nak buat evaluation tu kan. Ambil video lah, lepas tu ambil video tu borak dengan kawan tanya, ni motility aku berapa? Oh, motility kau laju juga, motility aku berapa? Lepas tu pergi jumpa sini, pergi merewang sana, merewang sini, semua benda mati. So by the time when you do actual evaluation, your results is already not representative of the real thing. I hope you can remember a bit when you, and the time actually comes when you want to do semen evaluation during rotation. Some preparation that you also need to do is that you need to trim the hair. But most of the time, if it's the same bull, it's already trimmed. But make sure the prepuce are clean. I also noticed that when you wash the abdomen, you don't wipe the top. So although you wipe the prepuce, water will still be kind of dripping from here, and water is spermicidal in a way that it kills the sperm. So you want to make sure that animal is dry after you wash. Some people, to a certain extent, even use semen extender to flush the prepuce. So you get rid of the mud, you get rid of the debris, sand, and whatever have you, dust. So an extreme is that if you do it, if you're doing semen collection in rhino, unlikely that you're going to do semen collection in rhino anymore because it's extinct. But if you're doing semen collection in buffalo wallow, right? So it's very muddy. So you need to really clean the prepuce. So bull not too bad. Dia duduk pun dekat mungkin sekarang dah ada apa carpet rubber tu kan. So dia dah bersih sikit. Not too bad. So this is the actual semen collection procedure in TPU. Remember to attach it to PowerPoint. Otherwise, it's not going to be electrified. It's not going to be having the power. Although they have battery have long con. Yeah, so basically animal needs to be properly restrained. So you need crush. And then there's like three main function. So that's the first person who holds the EE probe inside the rectum. Second is the person who's operating the EE machine, making sure that you turn on and off on the electrical stimulation. And the third function is to collect semen. So you basically need 3% more personnel to do EE. If you compare to AV, right? More or less lah. AV pun kena ada 2-3 orang juga. Tapi boleh je you nak buat seorang. Ada je postgraduate student kita buat seorang. So dia lah yang sorry. Tak boleh, seorang tak boleh. Sebab seorang nak kena pegang probe. 2 orang. At least 2 orang. Sebab dia tak boleh, kalau you biar je probe tu you tak tekan kan, dia kena ada contact. Sebab dia kena ada contact electrode tu dengan wall of the rectal. Sebab that is where you want to kind of have contact with the ASG, right? So you need to constantly push it upwards so that the probe kind of like sit. If it can make sense, like if this is the probe, right? So you kena tolak dia ke atas supaya dia ke bawah, faham tak? Yeah, so you always need to have that pressure. Otherwise, it's not going to have good contact and it's not going to be able to stimulate. Lepas tu, knowing that it needs to have contact with the rectal mucosa, rectal wall, rectal floor, you need to remove the feces quite efficiently. Otherwise, you'll be doing EE in the feces. Sama macam you ambil temperature. You don't want to take temperature of the feces. You want to take temperature of the animal. So it's the same concept. So that's that. Yeah. So this is the collection tube when it's already when it's already propped in. So that is the semen that is being collected. Okay. This is the form that you need to print because we don't provide for you, but we will give you soft copy, so bring it during rotation. And these are the parameters that they list in. So animal information, lepas tu bawah tu dia punya PE, lepas tu a specific reproductive examination of the testes, of the penis, and then semen characteristic, lepas tu scrotal circumference, bawah tu you punya remark, and classification yang kata tu ada 3, so what. So these are like the systematic way of doing it lah. And there's a form to it so that you don't miss out. Selalunya korang lupa nak tulis ID dan nama owner ladang. So that's like my point number 1, the animal need to be identified and identifiable. So kalau you hantar I-form yang tak ada tulis nama lembu, I akan bising lah sikit. I akan marah. Tak adalah. It's incomplete lah. Dia macam you hantar kertas you exam kan. Dah 1 semester, exam tulis jawapan 6 muka surat tapi tak tulis nama. Lepas tu you bagi I nak sebab apa? Faham tak? Itulah dia punya yang I upset sikit. So remember to write everything as if it's a real thing that you're going to submit to some body that will regulate. It needs to be complete. Just follow the form, you should be okay. Selalu juga student tak print form ni. So mula-mula macam I baik lah, tak apalah pakailah pakailah phone you, lepas tu transfer dekat kertas as long as get the results. It's not the same. Nanti balik ada lompong-lompong, lubang-lubang. Oh tak tahulah, lupa lah nak tanya. So what I'm going to do next, or what I've been practicing so far, if you don't have the form, don't waste my time, go back and make it available hard copy. And I will wait for you at TPU while you do that. Lesson for you, not so much for me. I have all the time. Not me who's going to do BSE. So please be responsible. You have 6 or 12 in the group, depending. Remind each other and just make sure you tick all the box, that things that you need to do. Preparation is key. Same goes with the field. Nanti you dah jadi vet kan, ada staff you macam, doktor saya tak ingat borang lah. You mesti macam, merangi ke lah kan. Belum buat lagi ni, doktor saya terlupa lah nak pakai boot ke, tak bawa coverall, nak buat ni, BSE ni. Itulah, dia macam, over the years you get frustrated lah. So you do become a little bit more strict on these things. Don't forget your form, please. So this picture in the lab showing the water bath, semen evaluation kit. This is the box that we use since tahun 90-an lagi. So you masuk lab tu, you carilah box ni. You carilah water bath ni pun masih pakai water bath yang sama. So kat sini ada normal saline, formal saline, you see necrosis stain, your pipette chip, micropipette, kat sini, micropipette kat sini. Lepas tu ada box warna kuning, ada box warna biru. Box warna kuning ni untuk letak clinical waste yang tajam, box warna biru ni untuk sampah general. Ya, so atas ni pun ada glove. Tengoklah apa yang you perlu. Atas ni pun ada slide punya tempat simpan slide. Kat sini ada buku-buku nak baca. Kat sini ada glass slide. Kat bawah ni ada tip lagi kalau you nak cari. Be resourceful, be proactive, and be alert of your surrounding. Kalau semua benda nak macam, yelah kalau you tak ni kan, you akan harapkan orang tau. tak bagus sebenarnya you mengharap orang you kena berdikari. Sebab kalau orang tu contohnya tak ada, then you macam tak tahu nak buat apa. So make yourself familiar. This is the actual picture of the lab. Know that when you enter, where things are, where you expected to do, what you expected to have. Kalau tak cukup, ambilkan untuk staff tu, bagi tahu dia tak cukup. Kalau tak jumpa, lepas you cari. Dia, apa mak mentua I suka cakap, cari barang pakai mata, jangan pakai mulut. Sebab I suka cari pakai mulut. Tak jumpa lah, boleh tolong cari tak? So dia selalu kata, carilah pakai mata. It's a very annoying thing to hear, but after a while you realize that it's kind of true. You are the person who's looking for that stuff kan. Barang you hilang kan. Apa you nak tanya mak you kan. Sedangkan you yang sedang tengah cari. So, carilah pakai mata, jangan cari pakai mulut. So these are semen collection that we perform in different species, apart from bull. So I always say that this bull is like an analog. So hopefully if you need to collect semen in cats, in dogs, in tapir, in rhino, in buffalo, in tiger, so you know it's basically the same principle, it's basically the same concept. It's just a matter of maybe using different probes and different protocol as well. Animal needs to be generally anesthetized. So this is Dr. Zainal, if you know him. And that's me collecting semen. So yang tadi tu dengan Dr. Zainal kita pakai electro-ejaculator. Yang ni kita pakai digital massage in crocodile. If you're interested, you can also YouTube Ops Benih Buaya Majalah 3. So there's like 40 minutes documentary on our work. I also have Instagram for my deer work, which is my PhD work, which I collected semen also. Animal pun kena generally anesthetized, and this was published as well. This was our recent work with Bora on electroejaculation on Malayan pangolin. It's published in Q1 Journal. And I suppose the take-home message is safety. Always think about safety of the human, working with the animal, safety of the animal. And always know your exit and respond fast. Jangan macam, doktor. Ada juga jadi minum. Doktor, animal tu thrashing tau masa tengah buat air. Doktor, saya nak pak dah. Memang kena sepak lah nak pergi tanya lagi. Apa kan? You know it's not safe. You know you are very close to the animal. React fast and put yourself out of the danger zone, which means that you need to know your exit. I think Dr. Simta always highlight about this, although not my favorite person, but she always does. And I think sebagai cikgu saya hormat dia, dan itulah yang dia kata know your exit. How you exit. Nak panjat ke, nak lompat ke, nak selit ke, apa, tak kisah. Nanti tahu mana nak lari dulu. Dan janganlah masa tu, you are the person who's dealing with, assess the condition. If it's dangerous, go out immediately from the crush. Tak payah dah tanya saya, doktor saya boleh keluar tak? Rasa macam bahaya lah. Memang you kena sepak dulu. I pun macam, keluar lah. Tapi dah terlambat. So pernah sudah ada kena sepak dengan lembu, pernah sudah kena sepak dengan kuda. So yeah, be mindful, be careful of your surrounding. Be extra cautious with the animal bigger than you. Although animals smaller than you can also bite, but don't trust them. So the conclusion for VSE is that it's investigate reproductive health and performance of an animal or the farm. So routinely we do get call animal who have questionable rate of fertility. Maksudnya mungkin dah lama campur tapi tak bunting. So BSE are one of the easiest way for you to do to determine whether the male is good or not. Then you may want to proceed to the female, because male are actually easier to evaluate than the female, I suppose. And male pula tak banyak selalunya. Seekor lembu ratio dia 20 betina. So you buatlah yang jantan dulu kalau you ada question about fertility. Unless if you know specifically it's the cow's problem, right? But I would suggest you not to leave the reproductive examination of the male animal. And after briefing it to you, I hope it comes naturally to you that it's not just two, and it's not just one animal in terms of reproduction, and it takes two to tango. I always say this. So always need to know the male contribute 50% of the fertility as far as the female. But a norm in our country is that selalunya kalau satu pasangan tu tidak berzuriat, dia akan macam, ni semua salah perempuan tu, so saya nak kahwin satu lagi. Selalunya lah. Lumrahnya begitu. Tapi saya rasa tidak semestinya begitu. Dan sebelum kita nak tuduh orang, kita muhasabah diri dan tengoklah apa yang tak kena dengan diri kita sendiri. So don't be too proud of yourself. Don't be too egoistic and self-centered. Especially now that reproductive issue in human pun dah sangat sangat utama ataupun getting more mainstream. So I think as a vet, you pun macam tempias lah macam, you doktor kan, boleh tak you nasihat saya? Boleh, tapi saya doktor haiwan. So kalau you rasa you haiwan, boleh. Tapi selalunya akan terpias juga, especially for me, I'm like ONG and those stuff along for animal kan. So ada juga lah orang datang tanya. So yeah, my advice is usually that consult your doctor. Macam tu. Gitu. Itu saja daripada saya. Saya rasa masa pun dah tamat. I'm gonna stop sharing. Jam saya cepat 10 minit lah. So we do have some time. If you want to chit chat on stuff, you want to talk about Squid Game, you want to talk about some cold K-drama. If you want to discuss anything on the lecture, please. But let me figure out how to stop sharing this. Thanks, Usna. Sharing. Stop video. Stop sharing.
Doc, what's the volume of semen can be collected from elephant?
I don't know, Kevin, but I don't necessarily think that if the animal is big, although to a certain extent, yes, the semen outcome tu tak semestinya macam tu. If you get what I mean. Sama juga lelaki kalau dia besar tak semestinya semen dia banyak. Macam tu lah, I think. And for example, if you look at semen collection in boar kan, dia punya semen yang macam sangat banyak kan. Lepas tu ejaculation dia pun sampai 12 jam kan. That it can ejaculate for 12 hours. So that's why you have like, I think like liters of semen. So in animal context, in animal kingdom, if you're trying to make an over assumption or overgeneralization, usually you get fooled. Yeah, but to answer Kavin's question, I don't know. But of course, I would imagine there'll be slightly more than wolf, but I don't know.
And
because we collect. Sorry, yes.
Like you said, Doc, some animals like ejaculate for a long time, kan? So what is the best time to get? Like the first ejaculate or the middle one or the last one?
I don't think I can answer truly for all, because in general, I think natural wisdom is that you take the second fraction. But what is second fraction? Because I explained this at least in bull kan. Kita buat semen collection kan, kita kata jangan ambil first fraction tu, kita ambil second fraction. Tapi kalau you buat EE, you always stimulate the animal. Then what is the definition of first and second fraction? Satu. And then let's say you tak ambil first fraction, you tunggu second fraction tak sampai-sampai ataupun tak dapat. So my answer to that is any fraction that you have, just collect and then evaluate in the lab, and then you decide which is the best. And different animal may be different as well. Different individuals different as well. But if you have two samples, if you have two fractions, it's always better than one. Tajuk lagu. But that's always the case. And even for my practice in deer semen collection, I akan bila I dapat ni ejaculate ataupun fluid apa-apa, I simpan, I tukar je tube. I simpan, I tukar je tube. So kadang-kadang satu rusa tu I ada 5 ke 6 tube, which kind of equates to 6 fraction. But I don't think it's accurate if you're trying to describe fraction if you're using EE. And then let's say if you're talking about fraction in boar, right? So what's the first fraction and what's the second fraction? At least for me, I'm not smart enough. I don't know how to define that. But I would imagine maybe if it's 12 hours, then maybe first 3 hours you don't want to collect that. I don't know. So maybe the next 3 hours you want to collect that. I don't know. But yeah, so maybe those who have experience, who wants to share experience with boar can do that. But if you ask me, any fraction is better than no fraction. So just take as many as possible and change your tube. Tube bukannya mahal pun. So kau like banyak-banyak tube. I hope that answers Kavin's question on the
Yes,
fraction, which is best.
Thanks.
I was watching Ravina's and your group Lex video on some poem, and more I'm seeing a lot of your Lex video. Usually if I'm obviously I'm doing some stalking, isn't it? Anyway. Next question.
Doctor,
Yes.
I have a question.
Hmm.
Doktor, doktor dari mana?
Saya dari mana?
Asal orang mana?
Saya born and bred in Klang, Selangor, but my parents are both from Terengganu.
Oh, sebab most of them cakap muka kita sama, doktor. Saya tak tahulah.
Yeah,
Betul lah.
doctor. You
Saya
guys
tak
look
kenal
the
dia cakap muka
same.
sama, doktor. Tak tahu, doktor.
Betul lah.
Sama doktor. Biji.
Ya Allah. Dah lah nama pun dekat. Astagfirullahaladzim. Aduh, susah. So boleh lah kalau I tak nak datang kelas kan, tiba-tiba
Saya
ganti
tengok
kan?
lecture doktor macam tengok diri sendiri, doktor. Aduh.
I pun macam tengok diri sendiri lah. Boleh lah. Hey. Pelanduk dua serupa. Banyak je sebenarnya pelanduk dua serupa vet ni. So yeah, I'm meeting my first for the first time. Tapi selalunya memang orang yang buat vet ni dia akan ada banyak kembar. I think to answer that psychologically is that it's P is equal to G plus E, so it's that phenotype of vet people. It's equal to the genotype and environment. So either the environment choose you or you choose the environment, but there's definitely some selection. So maybe sebab tu memang ada banyak. Kalau saya pula, you tengok muka I sama macam Prof Wahid. Lebih kurang. Anak dia pun tak sama macam saya. Saya lagi sama daripada muka dia. Saya tengok muka anak dia pun macam betul ke anak dia. So macam tu lah. Then we happen to like the same thing. I think this is another psychological theory that you marry the person that looks like you, but actually in a way it's like you liking yourself. So yeah, I suppose it's like we love that. So some of us do have that phenotypic. Yes. So apa dah? So Fitri sebenarnya bukan soalan. I macam dapat soalan kat chat box.
Okay, selamat berkenalan, doktor. Saya Fitri.
Alright. Hai, saya Fitri. Selamat berkenalan juga. Long lost doppelganger. Ish. Doctor, is it applicable to for orangutan semen collection? Orangutan dia lain sikit. We are trying to publish a paper that I have a review that is due. Primates, especially, they have sperm plug. And then they have like, I think they have like a wait, let me think. I think they have like a gel form. So what happens is after you collect semen from orangutan, the ejaculate will be gelatinous. But only after a while that you apply some mungkin vibration ke ataupun movement, dia akan dissolve and so I imagine this is like an evolutionary thing that allows slow release of sperm into female. So maksudnya dia tidaklah immediately dia masuk dalam. So like lifespan of sperm is like 30 hours, right? So if everybody goes inside the vagina, time is taking for that 30 hours for them to swim up to the ovine isthmus junction for fertilization. Tapi dengan sperm plug, I rasa dia boleh duduk, lepas tu chill, sikit-sikit cair. So akan you could imagine those time. Maybe it adds another 2 hours or maybe less, but time in that sense is very crucial to success of fertilization, I rasa. So I think that's like an evolutionary thing. So if you ask, is it the same for semen collection in orangutan? It's not. And sperm in primate also, you need to remember it's gelatinous. I have a paper if you want to see that shows the consistency. Memang macam we tengok macam gel rambut lah. Aku macam kenapa lah pelik sangat. Sana. This is paper from Dr. Zainal. Hack. Paper orang tu kita orang tengah tulis lagi, tak publish lagi. Apa dah hantar for review, belum publish. Macaque, semen collection, effect of precision. Ni. Okay. Dia gambar ni silap. Yes. Share screen. Wah, dah jadi dia meletup ni. Sorry. Alah, kenapa dia marah saya? Can you see my Mendeley? Nampak Nampak? Ravina tak nampak You're sharing Mendeley desktop. I am sharing though. Stop sharing. Share. Betul ke tak nampak ni? Okay. And okay, right. So it's in coagulum form. Ada filament pun. Semen color stain milky. Kan? You bayangkan tak? Ni sperm tau. Dia boleh jadi filamentary pula. Dia jadi macam apa? Sebab apa rumah air pipe bocor. So dia jadi macam apa yang white tape tu kan. Macam tu. It will surprise you lah, I tell you. These are the coagulum. And then the shape is like paddle shape. These are normal like mammal sperm paddle shape, right? So paddle shape is like, it's actually like ni tau. Kalau you tengok dayung kan, dayung sampan tu, dia bukan gemuk lah. Kalau you nampak dia macam gemuk tau. Faham tak? Kalau you nampak dia macam ni, dia bentuk dia macam let's say bulbous kan, ataupun pear shape they call it kan. Tapi sebenarnya dia adalah satu bentuk paddle. So dia ada side yang you nampak dia lebar, ada side yang you nampak dia nipis. Sebab dia paddle kan. So that is what paddle shape means. Sebab ada yang tanya, kenapa sperm saya nipis? Itu sebenarnya you tengok pada pandang sisi di tepi. Kan? You can imagine that. So that's paddle shape for all mammals. For reptiles, avian, crocodiles, they are vermiform, which means they look like worm. Ayam pun sama, they look like worm. If I have my crocodile paper, so the other structure, yes. So you can appreciate so dia macam ni. I call it a chili at first. But I realized that it's vermiform. Kan? So samalah, dia ada juga acrosome, dia ada nucleus, dia ada midpiece, flagellum. Tapi bentuk dia sangat kecacingan. You can, so I think this is a part of lock and key as well, as we ni earlier kan. So buat ultrastructure, you can see cytoplasmic droplets like that. So ni pun electron microscope, you can see easier the separation of sperm fraction of.
Cuk, bateri phone I habis. So dia memang suruh berhenti ni. Pukul 12 pun. So yeah, what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of things in the natural world, in the animal kingdom, that it's impossible for me time and time again to answer your question specifically. But if you do encounter different species, I think it's up to you to develop that knowledge. And most likely you're going to be the first person to do that, and it's okay. Yeah, so that's all for today. No more question because we ran out of time. Thank you very much for your participation. I think I'm going to see you again next week on Monday. Okay, have a good weekend. Bye. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.